Welcome back. Now, have you ever asked yourself what rights you have as a spouse? Today on InfoHub, tunaongea na wakili Eliud atuambie what is your right as a spouse. Karibu sana Eliud.
Asante.
Tell me, what are the rights of a spouse when it comes to property?
There are several rights that you have as a spouse, and especially if you're living in Kenya, there are rights that are given to you by our constitution. One of the rights is that you are not supposed to be discriminated upon under Article 27 of our constitution on the basis of your gender. So we cannot say that because you're a woman, then you should not own property. Number two, that the law looks at you at an equal way, that both male and female are equal and they have equal right to own property anywhere in this country. And so you can actually own, depending with the area or even the size, you should actually know that you have the right to own that property. And lastly, it's equal treatment and equal opportunities. Just because you're a man or you're a woman, it doesn't say that you cannot have a right to equal opportunities. If you need to invest, our constitution provides under Article 27 that you have a right to equal opportunities and you have right to economic rights, that you can actually go and build yourself and invest your money.
Maybe then you can define for us what matrimonial property is.
Matrimonial property is property that is gotten in the course of a marriage, not in a come and stay. And a marriage is defined as, under our Marriage Act, as a registration. So you need to acquire a marriage certificate if you went through the customary marriage for you to actually prove your marriage. And if and the other sets of marriages, a civil marriage or a church marriage, you need to register that marriage for you to actually claim your matrimonial right. But we also have matrimonial property, is the matrimonial home, and secondly, it's any movable or immovable properties. They amount to matrimonial property.
How do I protect myself before marriage if I have property?
The Matrimonial Property Act of 2013 under Section 6 provides for prenups, where you can get into an agreement with your to-be husband or to-be wife to actually set aside the property you owned not to be included in matrimonial property. So you register a document called a prenuptial agreement, and this has to be done earlier on before the wedding date. So at least 21 days before, that's a minimum number of days required.
In an instance where I find somebody has property, for example, a house that is not finished, and I help, with the completion, can I lay a claim to that?
Yes, you can lay a claim to property, which we call beneficial interest. If you come in and you maybe find the house was not fully furnished or was not properly tiled or and such things, you can actually lay a claim and claim the beneficial interest that you actually laid or improved, that improvement that you actually made to the house.
Na naweza nunua tu nyumba nifiche. Can I buy property and not tell my spouse?
Under Article 45(3) of our constitution, it provides that property spousal rights are equal at the beginning, during and at the end of a marriage. So any property gotten at the beginning or during the marriage belong to the two of you, and any property that you get and you even register in your name only, there's a beneficial interest or rebuttable presumption that you hold that property in trust of your husband or your wife. So only one name appearing, it is presumed that that land or house also belongs to the other person, the other spouse in that marriage. And so you cannot hide, but you have a very hard time disposing of this property. You can buy many properties during the marriage without your partner knowing about it. But as I have said, you'll be holding it in trust, and anytime you want to dispose of that land or apartment, it will be very difficult, because under our laws there is a requirement that there must be a spousal consent accompanying any disposal of property. Yeah, so your wife has to consent, say they were not, they knew you have this property, they were not coerced, and they are aware that you are now selling it to person X and Y.
And in case of a divorce, then what am I entitled to?
Under our laws, the Matrimonial Property Act, it provides that you are entitled to your contribution in property, and contribution is in two ways. They could be either direct contribution or indirect contribution. Indirect contribution is where maybe you got a facility from your employer or your SACCO, you took a loan from your SACCO, you went to a bank and you came and contributed 5 million shillings to the purchase of a property. But there is also indirect, which includes several contributions, which amount to, under the matrimonial property, contribution amounts to domestic work. If you're a stay-at-home wife, your domestic work, childcare, if there are children in that marriage and you are taking care of those children, that amounts to indirect contribution to property. If there is also the companionship, you're spending time, you're keeping the person's company warm, that amounts to contribution, companionship. And lastly, there is management of family business and farm work. If you are doing some farm work or you are running some business, that is your contribution to this marriage. And so you have a claim, and you can show, you need to show either of them, whether you did it directly or indirectly by these other ways.
Let's discuss polygamy. What rights do each have?
Under Section 8, that matrimonial property acquired by the man and the wife of the first wife shall be retained equally by the first wife. And if there is a second wife who comes in, then the matrimonial property acquired after the man marries another wife shall be retained equally with the second wife. And so you find that the parties, when a second wife comes in, the first wife still benefits, because under Article 45, it says that property obtained in the course of a marriage, at the beginning, during the marriage, is shared equally between the spouses. And so this other spouse is able to claim the indirect, because they are still in the marriage. They can still lay a claim to the property belonging to the second wife and to the third wife and fourth wife, etc., because they are contributing indirectly, because they are doing the what is defined by contribution, indirect contribution.
Expert advice maybe?
One, you have a right as a spouse equally, 50-50, equally you have a right to property in a marriage during the course of your marriage. And to prove your direct contribution, you need to keep evidence, you need to keep your documents in order, your receipts, your loan documents. You need to keep them in place, because you may need to use them when it comes to the dissolution of a marriage. And if you don't have those documents, don't worry, because you're in direct contribution.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Wakili, for your insights and information.
Thank you, Naomi.